From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday on your MTN statewide news. I'm Andrea Lutz. We do have an update for you this morning and this evening. The Amber Alert for Lucas Warner, which was issued out at Flathead County, has now been canceled. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office located baby Lucas this morning, and he is safe. Now, are there very few details that we've been given at this time, but we have been following this story for several days, starting over the weekend. Lucas was taken by his non-custodial father, Andrew Warner, and his girlfriend, Haley Emerson. Emerson was babysitting the baby at the time. We'll be sure to give you more details as soon as we get them. Today, President Donald Trump officially begins the hunt for a second term as the Republican National Convention rolls out in North Carolina. On night one of the RNC, President Trump was officially nominated as the Republican candidate for president. This, as a new poll shows, a majority of Republicans say being a Trump supporter is more important than being a Republican. Speakers throughout the day echoed that sentiment, including a small business owner from Billings. Tanya Weinriss owns Mountain Mud Espresso, thanked the president for helping her business stay afloat during the pandemic.
Mountain Mud Espresso is the American story. A story not just for entrepreneurs, but for millions of hardworking men and women who are building their American dream every day. My company was one of the first to receive a PPP loan, and praise God, it has been a lifesaver. Not only were we able to keep every single employee, but we've been hiring weekly ever since. I am so grateful we have leaders like President Trump standing up for local businesses like mine.
Senator Steve Daines also holding a convention watch party in Billings with his supporters and campaign volunteers. He believes Trump has solid support in Montana, and it could bode well for the senator's re-election hopes.
Montanans want to elect a senator who's going to stand with President Trump. And my opponent, Steve Bullock, has said he's a single issue voter, and that is removing President Trump from office. I want to work with President Trump. Steve Bullock wants to remove him from office. Montanans will stand with President Trump.
Daines says the president is keeping a close eye on Montana and could still come here to campaign. The race to become Montana's next governor, of course, is heating up, and the future of sales tax is at the heart of the issue. Democrat Mike Cooney and Republican Greg Gianforte are both adamantly opposed to the idea. But Cooney says Gianforte is lying. 18 years ago, while speaking at a governor's advisory council, Gianforte said that a sales tax could attract more businesses to Montana. But Gianforte told MTN he'd veto it if it ended up on his desk. Yet Cooney says his opponent can't be trusted.
He's not telling the truth, and it's just that simple. He's trying to change now to protect his political career. I mean, let me put it this way. This is a guy who lied to the police after he assaulted a reporter. Why should Montanans believe him on anything?
A committee in the state legislature is meeting today, in fact, to look at a sales tax option. However, the chairman of that panel says they're likely wasting their time, believes both candidates wouldn't support it. All right, turning to some fire news. The Lone Star Fire in Yellowstone National Park is forcing the closure of the road from Old Faithful all the way to West Thumb. The only access to Old Faithful right now is from the north. Now, the fire is burning about 3 miles south of Old Faithful. It is estimated at 300 acres, started by lightning just this last Saturday. There are other closures of campsites and trails in that area as well. And across the country, wildfires continue to burn, especially in California, where crews are having a hard time getting a handle on those flames. Thousands of Californians remain under evacuation order, and at least 7 people have died. Crews say a break in the weather allowed them to get a bit of a handle on the fires surrounding the San Francisco Bay. Overall, more than 1,200 structures have been destroyed. And we are checking in on the Montana weather, and Ed might be tracking some changes in our forecast. Isn't that right?
Yeah, a lot of changes once we start getting into the weekend and the early next week, Andrea. I think everybody could deal with a little bit cooler weather, and a rain shower or thunderstorm wouldn't be out of the question either. Cooler than average temperatures as we start looking into the end of the month and early into September. Bullseyed right over eastern Montana and northern Wyoming. It looks like that'll be the case across the northern half of the country, while the south remains somewhat warmer than average. While we're looking at dry conditions in the Pacific Northwest down towards the south, we are leaning towards a little wetter weather, especially in southeast, south central Montana and northern Wyoming. Closer look at the short-term forecast details coming up in a few minutes.
There are new deaths to report when it comes to Montana's fight against COVID-19. The total number of deaths in the state now stands at 93. The virus has claimed the lives of 2 people in Yellowstone County, bringing the number of people who have died there to 36. A death also reported in Flathead County, as well as a second so far in Stillwater County. Active cases in the state are more than 1,500. The Cascade County Sheriff's Office is addressing the COVID outbreak at the detention center. Jesse Slaughter announced the detention center's first COVID-19 outbreak since cases expanded from 1 to 55 inmates and 2 detention center employees. In response, medical staff isolated the symptomatic individual. Since then, the City-County Health Department has been on-site testing the inmates and staff.
Recently, before we had the outbreak at the facility, we actually upped them, anticipating that what we were seeing around everywhere, that there was another kind of spike. For example, when officers come in and they're inmates, we don't even allow the law enforcement officers in the facility anymore. The detention officers get them and bring them in. So we're trying to do whatever we can to limit outside access to the facility so we mitigate that.
So testing will continue at the jail, and as a safety measure, visitation is suspended right there for right now. It was a historic day for medicine as the first person in the U.S. took part in phase 3 of the coronavirus vaccine trial. A Georgia woman was injected with the vaccine created by the drug company Moderna. Scientists hope results of the trial will be clear in just a few months, and a vaccine could be available by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Phase 3 is the last step before the FDA decides whether or not it can go on the market. The Montana Supreme Court granted a major victory to the state's solar power developers. The court ruled Montana's Public Service Commission acted illegally in 2017 by reducing prices and contract terms for solar power projects, planning, of course, to sell to Northwestern Energy. Federal and state law means to encourage renewable energy, and they say Northwestern should have to pay similar rates to fossil fuel purchases. Environmental groups hailed the decision as a win for the potential development of solar power plants in Montana. And the court's decision sends the case back to the PSC to set a new rate. More news to come on this Tuesday on the Noon News. We're taking a closer look at how the air quality is impacting a larger segment of the population, ways that you can also protect yourself in this kind of weather. But first, we are going to check back in with Ed McIntosh for a look at that statewide weather forecast.